But before you record,
back to, okay, so we're going to begin with module 1, which is what is your issue? And I'm going to go through the process again of finding that. So I'm going to share my screen. The easiest way is to go to our website. Now, can you see that?
yes.
Okay, good. And again, I said yesterday, and I'll repeat, I always ask that. And I also try to remember to ask it when I show my presenter's notes, because sometimes I've blocked my whole screen with my notes without realizing that I was doing it. This is the homepage of our website, energizingyoungvoters.com. You can find the lessons 2 ways. Under what we do, if you go down to educators and community groups, or if you just click on the icon, educators and community groups. When you get to that page and you scroll down, you'll see a list of all of the lessons that are available for teachers. On the left are the lessons that we went through yesterday, with the exception of Vote by Design, which I'm going to do a training for tomorrow. And then the Student Voting Advocate Toolkit, which is available both in English and Spanish, and that will be Thursday's lesson. Today, we're going to do Fighting for the Change. And you can see each time you click the little plus sign, there's a brief description, and then you click on View Module, and you're at the folder that holds everything. You'll notice that in this case, there is a middle school version and a high school version. For the middle school, what we did was to combine modules 1 and modules 2, and then change the activity in it so that it was more appropriate for middle schoolers. What we're going to use today, though, is the high school and the college level. And when we get to the activity, I'll tell you what the change is. When you open the program, you'll notice that there are 3 slides this time that are hidden slides. These are the presenter's notes, because there are additional things in this lesson that are a little bit more complicated. For example, there are video clips. And in the first one in particular, you need to email us so we can add your email address to those video clips so that you can play them. Also, when you start to share your screen, you're going to have to make some changes in the settings on the screen so the sound can be heard. That's that one. This one contains directions for how you can use polls and Jamboards. And then this one is an important reminder that you have to contact us if you want to use the video clips and have the person hear the sound. You can hear the sound fine if you're listening to it yourself, but the person at the other end won't be able to hear it. So I am going to go back out, and hopefully I will be able to show you that, but I'm not sure if I can. So what happens when you say share your screen, the white screen pops up with the things that you can show on your screen. And in the lower left-hand corner, there are 2 little white boxes. One says share sound, and the other one says optimize for video clip. The important one to check is share sound, because that will let you see it. Then you can hit the share button, and you'll go back and you'll be able to hear the video when you're there. So I think you can see, again, that important reminder. Am I right? Okay. All right, let's get going. Okay. In today's world, there are many young people your age, who would be high school and college, demonstrating global and national and local leaderships around really critical issues. Well, leaders do certain things, and there are many different kinds of things that leaders do, and there are many different individuals who approach leadership in different ways. There isn't just one kind of leader. So we're going to look at a couple of leaders. And what I'd like you to do while you're watching is to decide first, what's the action that he, she, or they wants to have changed, or what is the thing they want to have changed in society? And then what personal qualities do they have that seem to allow them to be effective leaders? I'm going to pause slightly in between each one of the video clips so that you can make a couple of notes for yourself, because we will be discussing these at the end. All right, now this is one of the examples. Do you have your chat boxes open right now? If not, I would appreciate it if you would open it. And we're going to be using that during this. Okay, so I am copying and pasting the questions that I want you to answer into the chat box, so you have them available while you're watching. Okay, I'm going to give you a few seconds to make a note for yourself. And then let's go on to David Hogg.
President Trump acknowledged Wednesday that gun deaths are a public health emergency, but he sent mixed messages on background checks in recent days. Now, some survivors of the February 2018 shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida are introducing their own plan for sweeping gun control legislation. Our Paula Reed spoke with David Hogg, a survivor of the shooting and one of the founders of the March for Our Lives movement. She asked him about the group's proposal.
What we're asking for is a gun licensing and registration system with annual licensing fees. What we're asking for is mental health services in our communities to address the 2/3 of gun deaths that are suicides in mainly rural and suburban areas that are never talked about when it comes to gun violence. And making sure that we're able to have a real conversation about making sure that the people that shouldn't have guns in the first place can't get them, and also reducing the overall demand and appeal for weapons and violence in the United States.
Okay, again, I'm going to pause for a moment. The questions are in the chat.
I don't see the questions. Did you send it to everyone?
I think so. No, I didn't. I'm sorry. Can you see them now?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Okay, and the next person is Ashton Mota.
We need to ask ourselves, how decent are we really?
And then the last one.
Seven names.
I'm
What was the message from the
Okay, let's have a little discussion. What did you notice? What were some of the things that oh, let me back up just 1 second. One of the things that I forgot to say, because I don't have it in my notes, is that while the students watch this, they have to understand that they might not agree with these positions, but these are young people who are taking an action. And if anybody has a suggestion for somebody that we could use a video clip from that holds a position that is more aligned with their own, they should email us at energizingyoungvoters.com, because we will make adjustments to what's in this program. But anyway, back to what you got. You can just share aloud. You don't have to write it in the chat box or anything else, but tell me what you observed during the presentation or during the clips. Anybody?
Each one of those students is very resolute, and they are concerned about not just themselves, but the society in general and their intimate society around them. They can't hit the whole world, but they can work within their own sphere of influence.
Good point. Anybody else?
I think each of them from what makes them an effective leader is, instead of sitting around talking about the issues or complaining about them, more or less, each one have gotten up. They have a audience for themselves and are speaking about it and giving actual examples of things that can be done, and really doing versus talking.
Okay. How about other observations?
And a couple of them were calling out the adults, like, yeah, you want the world to be better for your children, and but you're not doing anything, you're just talking about it. So they're becoming the example, the role model for us to follow.
Good point.
I think they're willing to challenge the people who they were speaking to, and those were different audiences, but they weren't shy.
They were also pretty good speakers, I thought, given their ages. Anything else before we move on? Okay, so those were really good observations. The point that we need to make is that you don't have to be old. You don't have to be really experienced. You don't have to be enormously courageous. And one of the things that I think it's important to know is that some of these people, for example, Greta Thunberg, have really big issues that they're dealing with on a personal level. Greta has been diagnosed with autism, and a part of that which keeps her from speaking unless she wants to say something, and then she speaks. So that's a pretty big issue to be dealing with, and yet these young people still have stepped up and made a point. And something that I'm going to share with you that I didn't know until just this afternoon, because a friend posted it on Facebook. There was a letter to the editor. My name is Julianne Spire. I'm 12 years old, and I'd like to inform you of how offended and disappointed I am. Can you see that?
Yes, I saw it on Facebook yesterday.
Yeah. So, and this is not a new comment. It was from about a year ago, but this is a 12-year-old who's making the point that a person who was commenting on the people in the parade said the Boy Scouts are future leaders of America. And then he said the Girl Scouts are just having fun. She said, I found this comment very sexist and patronizing, and I'd appreciate it if you would help me let other people know how much this kind of thing happens and how bad it is. It turns out that this young woman, a Girl Scout, a young Girl Scout, has not done only this, that she also took action about masks, and she took action about something else. So she doesn't sit quietly. She's one of these young leaders who can certainly make a difference in our world. Okay, back to this. I'm going to include that in the future slideshow somehow. So, but I just found that today, so I wanted to make sure that you got it. Okay, so what's your issue? There are so many things happening in the world today that it's almost impossible to keep track of. It can be completely overwhelming at times. Let's take a look at some of the issues that students before you have suggested were important in the world today. Jobs, racial justice, healthcare, the environment, immigration, education, war, and there were others. What are one or two others that you can think of? And again, you can just speak out.
Guns.
Okay. Somebody said it before when we were in, Melissa. Oh, no, yours were the masks. I kind of gave it away. The issue of masks today is another one that could be there. Anything else that you can come up with quickly?
Vaccines, whether we should get the vaccine.
Good. Okay. So you're right. There are many other issues. And when we talk with students, it is okay, no matter which side they come out on. So if, for example, the vaccines question came up and somebody said, it's not fair that everybody is not getting the vaccine because it's going to make it bad for me because I've had mine. Or you might hear a student say, it's not fair that everybody's trying to push the vaccines. I have a right to make this decision on my own. That's fine. And if some other student comes up and says, well, that's ridiculous, you stop everything and you say, remember, that's true for the person who's saying it. You don't have to agree. You have to listen respectfully and then move on. Okay, so moving on, it's impossible for a single person to have a substantial impact on every single issue that's facing our democracy. But you can have an impact on one issue without becoming burned out. Think for a minute and narrow down these possibilities to one or two things that you feel you are most passionate about changing now. All right, and now this is one of the examples of a time when we're going to use a Jamboard. You can see up underneath the pictures, what is the cause you'd march for? There is a link there that will take you directly to the march, the Jamboard. But when I'm working, I have a copy of that link in the teacher's notes. And I copy that, I put it in the chat and paste it, and then click on it. And you should be able to click on that and get to the Jamboard as well. So try doing that now. Anybody having a problem? Good. Okay. When you look down the left side, you'll see that there are a couple of different icons. The first one is a pen. The second one is an eraser. The third is a pointer. The fourth one is a sticky note. The fifth one allows you to put photographs into the Jamboard. The sixth one makes a circle. The seventh one is a text box. And the last one is a laser pointer. What I'd like you to do is take one of the sticky notes by just clicking on it. And what I would like you to write on the sticky note is your personal most important issue today. And when I click, mine appears on the board and I can move it around. That's one from before. Whoops, I'm going to take those out. I'd like you to grab a sticky note and do the same thing for yourself.
How do you grab a sticky note?
You go to the little bar on the left-hand side of your screen, and the center one is a sticky note.
Oh, okay. And it's not doing anything.
Did you save it? Did you click it?
I clicked it, yeah.
Mine too. Mine keep kind of disappearing. Oh no, now it's here. It's kind of weird.
I clicked it, but I can't get anything to come up.
Pat, did you click on the link that was in the chat box, or are you just seeing what's on the screen?
Well, I clicked on the link and what I got was the gridded board that says, what is an action people can take for a cause/issue?
Okay.
And I can, and I can click on the thing that's the sticky note, but oh, there, now one's come up.
All right, that's mine and that's on my screen. So see if you can do the same thing on your screen right now. And if it doesn't come up, I'll put one on for you.
Nothing comes up.
Okay. Tell me what your issue is.
Too many to.
This is exactly the point.
Black Lives Matter. Okay.
I have one of the voting rights. Is it on your screen?
Yes, I have voting rights and I have voter rights. So there are two of them. Okay, is there anybody else that's stuck? No. Okay, so this is the way the kids can put their personal thoughts on something, and they can actually collaborate with one another on the board. So it's a good technique to use as a teacher if you're trying to get kids to brainstorm, or if we'll use it again later and you'll see something else that we can do on it. And Pat, I'm hoping that you're going to be able to use the Black Lives Matter one at that point, but we'll get back to there. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Okay, and now we're going to try something else. We're going to try to have some fun with a poll. Again, I'm going to copy a link into the chat box, and I'm going to ask you to click on that. Okay, click on the one that says HTTPS forms. And what you should see is a poll on leadership with an image of leadership.
Okay.
Everybody got it?
Mhm.
It's gone away on mine. I saw it for a minute.
Okay, then you're seeing my screen, Pat.
Okay.
So go back to the chat box and try it one more time. Try to click on the link that says forms. You getting anything?
I got it. Yes, it's on there now. Right.
Okay, good. Let's see if it works. Okay, so can leaders exist if no one follows them? You have the chance to answer yes, no, or maybe on the form that came up. So click on your own answer. Okay. Everybody finished?
Mhm. So I hit submit and poll leadership, your response has been recorded. That's just on my screen right now.
Okay. If say it again, what you got?
I have, at the bottom when I voted, it said submit. So I hit submit and then my screen went to it's poll/leadership. Your response has been recorded. Submit another response under that.
Okay, you don't need to go there, and I'm going to have to clean that up, but thank you for making that point.
So
Okay.
how do I get back to where we were?
I'll get you back there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the responses that came up I can get by clicking on the responses button up at the top, and a graph will show up, and you can see that there's been there are different perspectives that are in people's minds, and that's good. And you can emphasize to kids that people do have different points of view, and those points of view may change over time as we go through this exercise. Okay, I'm going to get myself out of here. And go back. so I can see all of you and have my speaker's notes. Okay, leaders are only part of the picture. Who else is needed when you're trying to get something done? You can just pull out.
An appropriate audience.
Okay. Other ideas? Let me give you a hint. Can leaders work alone?
No, no.
Okay, any other thoughts?
I think they can. I'm trying to think of an example, but like, I think you can lead yourself. And to me, that's a leader. But then when it gets who else is needed, I'm thinking of, instead of Pat, I'm thinking of what else is needed instead of who else, almost. Because the what that I'm thinking of is what it is you want to change or move or impact, I guess. And I don't know if that's necessarily, and this is what I'm trying to play around in my head, and that's why I didn't answer. I don't know if that is a who or just a something, like what you're trying to impact.
That's a good point. Maybe my question needs to be revised. Good. Any other thoughts before we go on? Okay. Well, generally, a person has a hard time exercising leadership if there's nobody who is going to support them in some way, shape, or form. It may be a followership, or it may just be at the beginning some other person or organization that is willing to say, yeah, we'll help you out, we'll guide you. Okay. When citizens care about an issue, how can they get involved in making a change? I'm going to give you two examples. One is that they can lead a protest and do something really dramatic. And another one is just that they can discuss the news with somebody in their family. We're going to have some fun with a Jamboard, and I'm going to use a Jamboard link. And hopefully, that's not the right one. See if we can get something on here. So what is a cause that you would march for if you were really passionate about something? Okay, that one's bombed. Hang on. I don't know if I did something wrong there or not. I did. All right, I am going to try to save myself. And I'm going to ask you instead to unmute yourselves and give me some other examples of things that you can do that to get involved in an issue.
Join an organization, volunteer.
Okay.
With legislators or decision makers.
I'm sorry, that was kind of garbled for me.
Meet with legislators or decision makers.
Great. What else?
Write a letter.
Write a letter. Good. Okay. There are all kinds of things that we can do. But how do we do them? You want to make a difference. Where do you start? There are a lot of different levels of government, and each level responds to different things. And you should pick the right level for what you want to happen. Some issues are dealt with on many different levels. Consider the environment, for example. On the national level, laws are passed governing pollution for large interstate corporations, or financial subsidies are given to certain companies that will improve energy resources. On the state level, laws are passed to protect our beaches and to protect our parks or create parks within a state. On a county level, recycling cans might be placed in county colleges or at county parks. On the municipal level, plastic bags might be banned in businesses, and that's happened in several places around me. And even at the school board level, there are places where they might switch, say, from plastic straws to paper straws in the school cafeteria. So who makes the decisions about your burning issue at each level? Well, at the national level in Washington, it's the president, the senators, and the House of Representatives. At the state level, in Trenton, in our case, it's the governor, the state senators, and those are different from Washington senators, and the House of Representatives. And again, those representatives are different from the representatives that we send to Washington. At the municipal level, at your town level or city level, it's the council people and the mayor. At the county level, it's your county commissioners, and in New Jersey, those were formerly called freeholders, but now they're called commissioners here too, and the sheriff and the clerk, and there are a couple of others that are elected positions. And at the school board member level, whoops, sorry about that. At the school board level, it's the local elected community members who make the decisions for you, and generally they elect their president and their vice president. You have a more power to make changes at more local levels, like your town or your county. You can find out when your council meetings are held, and you can watch, because many of them are available online, or you can attend them. And I want to make the point that even just your presence, even if you don't speak a word, you can be a powerful influence, since most people don't attend. So it shows that you really care. Now, there's an option here as a presenter where you can have a Jamboard come up and students can try to fill in the names of their representatives. You have to try to fit this generally into a class period. So if you've got a longer class period, like if you have block scheduling, that's a fun thing to do, because most kids don't know their representatives, and then you can send them to the website for your state or the federal government where they can find out the names. But we're not going to do that today because I won't get to finish up if we don't. Okay, so let's find out who your legislators are. I'm going to put a link. Actually, I'm just going to bring it up. Okay, you can find, no, I'm going to go back to that. Sorry about that. I'm going to put the link into the chat so that you can look it up for yourself, because we are from all different places, and I'm messing this up. Okay, here I'm back where I needed to be. Okay, click on that link and see if you come up with the Common Cause page. And Pat, I'm particularly interested in whether you can
Yes.
pull that up. Okay.
I got it.
I got it too.
Great. Okay. All right. On that page, this is my address, and I want to show you how it works. So I get the president and the vice president. I get Cory Booker and Robert Menendez, who are the senators here in New Jersey. And then because I'm in District 4, I get Chris Smith to come up. And then the governor, the lieutenant governor, the Vin Gopal, Eric Hotelling, and Joanne Downing, the Monmouth County Sheriff, and so on. So all of your representatives are there. What I want you to do on the link that you put up is to change your address. Put in your personal address, and you'll see your own representatives come up. Everybody okay, or anybody
Yes.
having?
Yes.
Okay, so you can say, I mean, we're all going to be different because we're all from different parts of New Jersey, but it's a very quick tool that students can use in order to find out who their representatives are. And that is at commoncause.org. So you're having this recorded, but that's something that you might want to keep track of in case you personally want to go back and find the person who represents you on a particular issue. Now, the other thing that I'm going to share with you is how to find out what the positions are that your representatives have taken. And that is found at GovTrack. You can do at GovTrack, which is the Instagram link, or you can type, you can click that link and it should take you to GovTrack. And again, you can put in your personal address. If you scroll down. And hit go. And you'll find each one of your representatives, and you can click on legislative profile and get alerts, and you'll find out what your representatives have voted on recently. Give you a second to take a look at that. And then there's another link that's really interesting for kids to use. You ask them, how can you understand the positions of issues on both sides of the aisle? And you have to remind them that the positions that they hear are individual positions, but generally they will reflect the party that they belong to pretty closely. It's called a starting point. And I'm going to give you the, whoops, there we go. All right, and I'm going to give you the example of climate change. You scroll down and you find the environment, and then you can scroll down again, and I'm going to say, let's see. Well, actually, these have changed, so I'm going to do this one. I try to look at this ahead of time and find a shorter clip on each side. So if these happen to be longer, I'm going to stop them after about 30 seconds so that you can just get the idea. So when you talk about what's climate change and what are its impacts.
I like to call it not climate change, but climate weirdness, because when we called it global warming, some folks thought that meant it was just simply going to consistently get warmer year after year after year. What climate change really means is that our climate is getting less stable, less like what it's been over the last century or 1,000 years. Because the mean high temperature point in annual variations goes up, it has all sorts of secondary effects on the warmth of the oceans, on the sea level that rises as the polar ice caps melt, on the intensity and frequency of storms, on the intensity and frequency of forest fires.
Okay, I'm going to stop that there so you get the idea that this is the left leaning.
Climate change, first and foremost, is real. It's happening, and we need to do something about it. We need to make sure that our kids and our grandkids are able to live in the same beautiful place that we do. I think it starts by understanding and accepting the fact that nature is not a destination. It's actually our home. And when you have CO2 gases that are causing the warming of the earth, that is the fundamental problem that needs to be addressed. And there's a
Okay, and I would preview these ahead of time because what I really want is two very contrasting positions. Those are pretty similar, even though Will Hurd is a Republican from Texas. so that kind of surprised me when I did it, which is why I would do the previewing ahead of time. But it gives you a sense of how you can find out what the different positions are that people take on issues. All right, now, those things are like national and state level issues. The environment happens to be a national, but there's nothing in here that tells you about local issues, like what's going on in your town or what's going on in your county. So how do you think you would find out about those? Can you type in the chat for me what you, how you would go about finding out about your local issues and what people believe? Searching the internet. Going to town council meetings. Reading the paper. All right, well, you're also smart. I can guarantee you that high school and college students wouldn't necessarily come up with all of those. So what we do is encourage them to, first of all, find out what their state and county legislators are. And you already did that on the previous screen. And then find out where they stand on the issues of the day. Listen to people on both sides. And for the local and the county, the local and the school board level, you can go to meetings. And even if you can't attend in person, most of them are held virtually now. If you can't get to the meeting and you miss the virtual meeting, many of them are recorded. You can also go back and you can read the minutes. And if you have the opportunity, you can actually go to the work sessions and you can find when those meetings are and when the work sessions are by looking at the calendar on the website. When you go to a virtual meeting, you can make an appointment or you can ask for time to express your views. If you go in person, there's what's called a public session, and you can ask questions or you can make your own point of view known. You can read the minutes if you can't be there. You can read the agendas ahead of time and the minutes if you can't be there, but that way you'll know what was discussed. And like I said, you can go to work sessions. That's where the real talk takes place. That's where the real decisions are made. You can't talk when you go there, but you can listen. And then when you go to the public session, you have in your mind what is likely to be the basis on which people made their decisions. And you can be prepared to talk during the public session to make sure that your position is heard, because people can change their minds before they vote at the council meeting. One of the things that we emphasize to students is to begin small. Try to begin locally, because that's where you have the greatest possibility of making the greatest impact. I'll give you the example of Greta Thunberg again. She did start small. She actually began by persuading her parents to adopt lifestyle choices that reduced their own carbon footprint. And then in August of 2018, when she was 15, she started spending her school days outside the Swedish parliament to call for stronger action on climate change. She sat there and she held up a sign in Swedish, obviously, but that said, "Schools strike for climate." Other young people saw that she was doing that, and they began to engage in similar protests in their own communities. And then together they organized a school climate strike movement under the name of Fridays for the Future. So by starting small, her influence expanded over time. Okay, that's a lot. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of thinking that you have to do. And you're probably wondering if you can remember it all, or even if you personally can do something. You might be thinking, do I really have some power? And the answer is a clear and loud yes. Most people fall somewhere in the middle, somewhere between being a strong leader and doing absolutely nothing. There are lots of in-between actions that people can take if they feel passionate about an issue. To make change, both leaders and supporters are needed. You get to make the decision on the level of engagement that you want to have. And again, the word of advice is start small. Okay. I'm going to tell you a story. You probably know some of these, but it's a good thing to always refresh our memories so we're all talking about the same talking point when we get back and discuss. In the results of the 2016 election in the United States were a surprise to most people. Many people who had felt that Washington was broken were delighted that Washington, D.C. was going to change. Other people were totally overwhelmed by what they felt was the need to address the problems that were being raised by the new president and his policies. Some individuals tried to respond to everything, and many burned out in the process. People lost relationships with friends and had falling outs with relatives because they disagreed. Many fretted about the increasingly partisan nature of our nation and worried about the future of democracy. And the price was sound political health, sound mental health, I'm sorry. More recently, after the 2020 election, many people were deeply distressed by what they believed was a flawed election. Some people felt they needed to take steps to make the elections more secure in the future. And others believed that their patriotism required them to take action. January 6th, an action which has left many of them facing criminal charges. Others were deeply distressed by the actions that were taken in certain states around voting. They believed that those actions were an attack on voter rights, a return to voter suppression policies before the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Some of those people are now taking nonviolent actions that are collectively known as civil disobedience, something that was common during the 60s as people fought for civil rights and as people demonstrated against the Vietnam War. Those people, too, are willingly facing arrest in order to make their point clear to the public. Fueled by mass media, feelings are high, feelings that can take a toll if we don't take care of ourselves and our mental health while we get involved in politics. Think back to the young leaders in those video clips. How effective do you think Greta could have been if she tried to address climate change and guns and Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ issues? Do you think Greta Thunberg, David Hogg, Ashton Moda, and Naomi Osaka have faced frustration, anger, and other negative emotions that test their well-being? Do you think their experience also includes satisfaction, excitement, and a feeling of power? I'm willing to bet that your answer is yes. Greta faced many personal struggles. She says when she first heard about climate change, it was 2011 when she was 8 years old, and she couldn't understand at that point was so little was being done about it. The situation made her depressed, and as a result, at the age of 11, she stopped talking, stopped eating much. She lost 22 pounds in a month. Eventually, she was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, obsessive compulsive disorder, and selective mutism. In one of her first speeches demanding climate action, Thunberg described the selective mutism aspect of her condition as meaning she only speaks when necessary. What recent models have Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles been for others when it comes to mental health? And at this point, you could choose either to have the students respond, which would get them involved again, or there are 2 paragraphs that you can read. I'm going to read them because I'm I'm using up too much time right now. Naomi put her mental health before gaining press coverage, and as a result, she actually got both positive and negative press. Simone Biles put her mental health just in the last few days before the pressure of Olympic performance when she experienced what many gymnasts do at times. It's called the twisties, when they aren't aware of their body in space any longer. And so it's very dangerous for them to do the movements that they normally have no trouble doing. And the Olympics regulations required that she stopped taking her medication for ADHD, which also put a tremendous strain on her. All of these people, despite those challenges, felt that it was worth it. And all of them are making a difference for our world today and in the future. So, what's your issue? Is it possible to bring about change? You can start small, even just among your friends and family, or in your school or community. Even small changes have a positive impact on the future, and the rewards will be great for every one of us. So I'd like you to reflect on that question. Will you make a difference? All right, and I gave wait time there to allow people to really begin to reflect for themselves. Okay, if you decide to do this and you need help, we're here. Here's where you can find us. We have a website, and on the website, there is a contact us form. And the other way you can find us is by emailing us directly, and it's all energizingyoungvoters, all one word, @gmail.com. I'd also ask you to please like us on Facebook and Instagram right now, if possible, if you've got your phone with you. It helps spread the word about the positive things that young people, young voters can do in the world today. Right now, I think we're up to about 250 likes, and I'd love to see that expand. Okay, so I hope that today you have kind of narrowed down your issue. You know the different levels of government that you can impact, and you have a sense of whether you're ready to be a leader or a supporter. Are you ready to make change happen? You can learn the how-tos in Module 2, I Am the Change. Now, there is also a feedback form, and the link is both on the slideshow, and that's for the benefit of people who may not use the teacher's notes, and it's also in the teacher's notes. What I'd like you to do is click on that and take a look at the form that's available for students. And I'd like to ask you to actually fill it out now, if you would, to take a few seconds and do that. Actually, not seconds, a minute or so.
I'm not able to type my responses in.
Did you click on the link to get to the forum for yourself, or did you just try to do it on the screen that I'm showing?
Okay, so if I go to the chat box, I go to Docs, Google
Google Forms, right. And if you click on that.
Oh, there's, okay, now it's what's your issue? And then there's a series of questions.
See if you can do it now.
Okay, now
Karen.
it looks like I can type.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay, from the teacher's end, I can see right now that one person has completed the responses. So you get a sense when the class in general is finished doing this. Make sure when you finish your responses that you hit the submit at the bottom.
I did.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to go to the responses now. If you haven't finished, you can finish and your responses will still be included. But here you can see what people have actually said. So I used to think that I could not make a lot of difference. Now I think I can get involved to create change. I used to think students can be encouraged to do their own action, and this is enforced. I was too insignificant to influence anyone. Now I know I have a voice and someone may listen to me. And I'll tell you, those are the kinds of responses that we got from the students in the pilots that we ran too. So that makes me feel very encouraged. What was something you learned from today's lesson that made a difference to you personally? That there are many youth that are making their voices heard, that you're continually impressed with young leaders, and that you shouldn't be afraid to speak up. What's the worst that could happen? And then what's the most important thing in this lesson that all young people should know? That you and your voice matters. Anybody can be a leader, find a passion. We all need to become concerned and act on an issue, and your opinion is valid, but you have to speak up. Oh, I love this all blue. And then in general, should anything be changed or added or omitted? And we appreciate your suggestions. And then including local youth and the reference of with the slides, good point, nothing, and the start. Okay, now What I would encourage you to do, if you use this lesson with a group and you collect the students' responses, you can go to that little button, the 3 dots, you can make a copy for yourself. And then when you have your own copy, identify it, change the name of the file. Instead of what's your issue, you can make it whatever town or whatever group that you're working with. And that way you'll know what your answers are, because the next person that comes in to use this will clear all of the answers that were in there before in order to get their own, and it comes up, it's up here. So you can delete all the responses that were there. Now, I'm not going to delete them because I am going to copy them for myself. And I'm just going to add today's date, 0320. And then be able to remember what you said at the end of it. And now then I'll clear it. Okay, so let's have some time for discussion before we go on to the next. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can see all of you at the same time, and let me know what your thoughts are.
Okay, I was on mute. I think for me, the hardest thing throughout my life until this point, so it's probably not what a child would or a high school would say or college student would say, is to find really what I'm passionate about. It's taken me a long time to find my passion, because I think there's strength in passion in being a leader and having the passion. And I think that gets people to follow you. So searching for a passion.
Okay, the one thing that I didn't include in this, and maybe your comment is suggests that I should, is that you don't only have to be a leader, that you can join a group that's already in existence when you think it's something that you're interested in. And then if you're not, you'll find that out and you can back off and look again. So that's one of the things that
I actually like that, Pat, because not everybody wants to be a leader or is comfortable there. And maybe you start finding your passion and then you start leading as you get that passion.
Okay, so that leader and follower screen, maybe I should make some adjustments on that. Thanks, Lori. Any other?
Along that line, granted, I haven't been in a high school classroom for a number of years, but my experience after teaching for about 15, 16 years was that maybe the students' passion, especially on the high school level, is something smaller, I'll use that word. They may not be concerned about politics, okay, about what's going on in the world, but they may be concerned about what's going on in their school.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be where you could start with their passion. I can give you a specific example. When I was teaching, at one point, I was teaching social studies, and we were asked for the freshman year to give a pretest on current events to our students. And the vast majority of students scored below 50% out of 100. And then we were mandated to do a current events lesson every week, okay, throughout the year. And then in June, we gave them a post-test. A fair number of students went up so that they were, say, 70+ range. But a significant number of students who were A students, okay, didn't go up. And the feedback we got was, I don't care about what's going on in the world. All I care about is my cheerleading or whatever it was, my friends. So it's kind of hard to maybe we're focusing on it, what I would call an adult issue that some of them are not focused on.
Melissa, you're still in the classroom. Is that what you're experiencing? Your experiences?
I'm sorry, I just got a message and did not hear the whole thing.
It's just like in school, right?
Yeah.
Carol was saying that that some students, even with encouragement, even with instruction in the classroom, just didn't care about political issues. Even though they've been given this support to become aware of what was going on in the world.
Yeah, until it affects something that they care about or affects them personally, they don't, right? I have the same issue with my own two sons. No matter how active or involved I am, my kids are in their 20s and you know, it hasn't affected them yet. They live, quite honestly, a privileged life. So until it does, then sometimes it's hard to activate the youth. And Lori mentioned it earlier, right? It took her a long time in her life to find what she was passionate about, and myself as well, right? I've only been involved for the past decade, right? So I'll be 50 next week. So it wasn't until my 40s. Thank you.
Okay, Kaylin, I'm not going to put you on the spot because you don't have to answer. And I know that you weren't put in the class. You were just going to observe. But if you have any thoughts while we're going through this feedback part, I want you to feel free to jump in. But like I said, you don't have to do it now. I'm just giving you that piece of information. How about anybody else?
Well, one of the things that I think about relative to the teaching that I did and haven't done for quite a while yet was we were always working towards a culminating project in which kids were supposed to find something that they were passionate about and then design a way to deal with it. And that was what I was teaching, was design. And I always kind of found that it really helped. I'm the one who said that I liked stories as a starting point. And I found that there were a bunch of people who were sort of like me, and then plenty of people who weren't like me, but who really resonated to a real good story that captured their attention and imagination and, you know, showed them somebody behaving passionately and suggested, you know, a model for, where an important idea in somebody's life kind of bubbled up from, and then what they did to do something about it. And then after that, I had a model of how you do things that was personal to me. And then I would try to think about something in my life that could rise to that level. And I sort of had a roadmap for, okay, what I might do about it. There were other kids who just, you know, they just said, okay, what is it you want me to do? Just tell me what the result should be, and I'll figure out a way to do that. And did they care about it? Not particularly. They cared about the grade. So I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking about different kinds of learners that you're going to run into in this sort of situation. But I do think that, you know, I think of all the kids who have gone to see Hamilton and weren't interested before, and now are like, you know, crazy in all the words and all that kind of thing. And I just think, you know, I think knowing all of those, the procedures that you should go through and the people who are making the decisions and something like that, for me would follow catching my imagination.
Okay. So maybe what you can do for me is shoot me an email when this is over with that idea, because that's more complicated than I can make notes of real quickly here. And that's true of anybody else. If you have thoughts after today that I need to be aware of, please make sure you let me know, because it really does help to improve each one of the lessons. These Fighting for Change lessons this fall is the first time that they're actually going to be taught in classrooms on a regular basis. They have been piloted, and there have been changes made to the original based on feedback, like what I'm getting from you now. So we do use feedback. It really is important, because we want these to be as effective with kids as we can possibly make them. We do get feedback from kids too. We have a Young Voters Advisory Board, and when curriculum is written, we send it to these 9 young people who are all different ages, from 16 on up to about 25 now, I guess. All different races, all different levels of education. So we get some really legitimate feedback from them. And we take that very seriously as well. So
Are those the kids on your website who
Yes.
talk a little bit about what they, because those are kids you've gotten, you know, they're really, so whatever you're doing, you clearly doing it right for a bunch of them.
well, we do have some good kids, and we are going to, we're now at the almost 2-year point, and they have 2-year terms, and they can re-up if they want, but we also will start to include other people who have expressed an interest since then. We have one young man in particular who is a member of a group, and he and the group proposed A5666, that's the Assembly Bill A5666. They have a Democratic sponsor for it. They have approached a Republican sponsor and in the Assembly, and they have approached Vin Gopal and Tom Kaine on the Senate level in order to get sponsorship. And what the bill is to try to get a law through that will allow one excused absence per year for a student who participates in some kind of civic engagement. I am just extraordinarily expressed with these young people. They are passionate about what they're doing. So it can happen. And I think that young girl too, who wrote the letter, the 12-year-old, is just the same kind of person. So, so at any rate, okay. Any other comments? I'm more than happy to hear them. Just shoot me an email, but I'd like to get going with the second part of this, which is the I am part. I'm going back to the website, but I'm going to have to go here to do that. Okay, so this is module 2. And again, you'll see that there's the middle school version because it's been combined with module 1, and it's in both places on the file, but we're going to use the high school and college version. And again, you'll see teacher's notes because there is a video clip in this presentation as well. And so you need to make sure that you set the sound so that people can hear it, which I'm going to have to do because I didn't do it before I had you. So give me just a moment. Okay, I'm set. All right. All right, so we start with the same League of Women Voters stuff if the kids haven't already experienced the Fighting for Change Module 1. What's your greatest issue? Helped them decide what was of most importance to them and possible actions that they could take in order to participate in and be engaged civically in some manner. This module is intended to empower the students, whether they choose to be leaders or supporters, by giving them action steps that they can take in order to contact their representatives at either the state or the national level. So we're not working at the local level now, we're giving them like the next step up. In the middle school version, we talk about addressing people at the school board level, and we have the kids draft a letter cooperatively that will ask the school board president to bring it up at a school board meeting that they would like to have a civics class in their school. All right, so the essential question today is, how do you exercise your power and your knowledge in order to bring about change in our society, whether that's doing it as a leader or as a supporter? The definition of civic action is the things that people do in order to defend democracy and bring about change. And this can mean anything from registering to vote and voting through more dramatic actions like planning a demonstration or participating in some nonviolent civil disobedience. Civic action is a process, and you're going to learn how the process works. And it requires a plan and you'll learn how to make one. The acronym I AM, which is the title of this lesson, neatly becomes I am the change, whoops, because, and Gandhi was the one who actually said that. What do those three letters IAM stand for? Well, they're the three basic steps. They're inform, act, and maintain. All right, let's look at information first. It's really, really important to emphasize that they have to get reliable and accurate information before starting any action. So ask the students, where can you find reliable and accurate information? Would you please put some of those ideas into the chat? Where can you find accurate, reliable information? Research. Yeah, it is intriguing, isn't it, Lori? Anybody else? Well, let me ask you an easier question. Where should you exercise caution about information? Online, from the media, newspapers. Anything else? How about, all right, I was going to say, how about friends and family members? Yeah. Stars, good. Athletes. All right, you got the idea. Okay. In a minute, I'm going to share a graph with you from an organization called Ad Fontes Media. They have licenses and their usage information, which is available at their website, which is www. Actually, I'm going to copy it. They have a website and they have a Twitter account, and you can see how and where to get their information from at the website. The graph that I'm going to show you shows an analysis that they've done of some media sources, and it indicates whether that source leans left or right or is more centrist. And the graph that they developed also indicates more and less reliable resources based on their methods of analyzing that. We will provide a PDF form of that to any teacher or presenter so that the kids and the teacher has a copy to keep, but you'll have one here. Okay, so when you're working to bring about change, you have to be sure that first you inform yourself, that you get the facts and the figures and know the sources for your information, that you state your problem as clearly as possible and know clearly what the issue is before you try to explain it to other people and be able to support what you believe. You have to learn as much about the solution as you can that you think is best. And we emphasize to kids that it should be something observable so they know when they can see that it's accomplished. They have to gather information about why that solution is important so that they can explain that as well to other people. And then they have to work to get others to work with them, or they can find a group that's already working on that issue and they can join in. Okay, this is, and what I do normally is talk about the two axes on the graph first before we look at the stuff that's in the middle, because we want students to be sure that they're reading and understanding the stuff that's there. The reliability or accuracy indicator is shown on the vertical axis from top, meaning the most reliable source, and they've analyzed it as AP Reuters. down to the bottom. And they've analyzed that, in their opinion, it's both the Inquirer and a place called World Truth TV. The bias is shown on the horizontal axis at the bottom from left to right, showing left-leaning, centrist, and right-leaning sources. Their opinion is that the most extreme left source is Wonkette, and the most extreme right sources, and there are two that seem to be pretty much the same, Punch and InfoWars. The green dotted box at the top and the middle of this graph indicates their analysis of the most reliable resources. And that means they have original fact reporting and complex analysis based on those facts. The tan frames to the left side and to the right side indicate hyperpartisanship, the most extreme sources of information. The yellow box in the center of the graph indicates sources with mixed reliability. And the yellow box at the bottom indicates sources that provide only selective information or incomplete information. And the brown box at the bottom indicates that the source most often contains inaccurate or fabricated information. Now, the next slide, I took the green box and I enlarged it. Because it's enlarged, it's blurry, but you can still see better what's in that green box because it's larger. I asked the students, do you understand what the names of those sources are that only provide a branding image? If you have a question about one of them, what is your question? And I give the example of WSJ. WSJ stands for the Wall Street Journal. Is there anything else that is confusing to you? Okay, what I'm going to do now is to ask you to write one source other than AP Reuters that you feel you could turn to and believe that they offer you pretty reliable, unbiased information on some topic in the news. Try not to duplicate something that's already in the list, and don't use AP Reuters because I've already given that as an example. So take a minute, look at it, and put in something that you feel you could turn to and get a pretty good idea of what's the facts.
But not using any of these?
No, not using just AP Reuters, because I meant
okay,
that's the
okay.
topic.
Okay.
Good question, thanks. Okay. I see also, when I look at it, the Denver Post and the Houston Chronicle, Bloomberg News, PBS, Market Watch, the Wall Street Journal is pretty close. Newsweek is pretty close. So we've got a couple there that we can turn to. Some are more local, but you can always access those online if you don't have access to them physically. And I encourage students, I said, look up something that you're passionate about and use one of those, and then use a second one and use a third one. and see where they all align, and you'll get a much better idea about what the facts really are. All right, now at this point, I'm going to give you a reminder, because I always need to remind myself that we have to remain personally issue agnostic, but the students can lean either way. All right, so what I want you to do is to reflect on your burning issue. Let's pretend that you've done all your research, you have a very clear idea of what needs to change, and you can have backup material. You've got all your facts and figures. So let's state what you want in your law as clearly as possible. What do you want to actually see change when your representative is successful in having the law that you want become a law? And an alternative is that you can write in the chat, but we're going to try using a Jamboard again. We're going to have some fun brainstorming on the Jamboard. I'm going to ask you to grab a sticky note and put in the change that you would like to see. So here comes the Jamboard. Click on that. And that's mine. Civics should be taught in school. So again, you can grab a sticky note, you can write on it, and then it will show up on the screen. You can also change the color of it if you want. You can see that I did. Couple more. Okay. I'm going to make that bigger so we can see it. Have any more? Okay. Okay, I think that's everybody that's still on the call right now. Okay, so if we look at those, I'm going to use mine as an example, and then I'm going to ask you to think about yours. Civics should be taught in schools is really broad. And in order to be able to really see what I want to see, I'm going to try to narrow that down a little bit. And it's easy for me now because the law just did change in New Jersey, so I can be more specific. So instead of just saying civics should be taught in school, I'm going to edit that. I'm going to say civics should be taught in middle school for 1 semester between grades 6 and 8. It should include information about how the government works, but also how they can get themselves involved. How they can take an action. Okay, so when I put that up, it's a whole lot more specific. And it's something that I really can see at the end. So what I'd like you to do is take a minute, take your own and edit it so that it is as specific as possible, so that when that law is changed, that you can see that you got exactly what you want. You can just click on your sticky note and edit it right on the sticky note. And it might begin, a law should be passed that.
I can't click on mine and do anything to it.
Really?
Or maybe if I double click on it?
Yeah. Did that
Press
work?
this- Mm,
Yeah, I double clicked.
I think I'm on your board is what it is.
Go back to the chat box and
Yeah.
click on the link in the chat box and hit enter.
Okay. Wait, is it the add fonts?
No.
No.
Whoops. Trying to make this
Up
big.
further than that?
It should say jamboard.google.com/d/1.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it.
All right.
Okay.
Woo. What did I do there? Oh my goodness. I really screwed that one up.
Did you do it or did I do it somehow?
I did it.
Okay, good.
I'm looking for the top corner.
Click on it, maybe. I think it was mine. That's it.
I'm still getting it too big. I did something when it hit the screen. All right, I am just going to narrow yours or move yours down. No, I can't do that.
Let me see if I can do something with it. Edit. You know what? I'm going to try something.
Can you find the corner of it?
On mine, it's no longer there,
Oh,
which is weird.
oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Qualified immunity, voting rights, current proposals before Congress, John and Lewis Act should be passed and stand challenge of SCOTUS.
There it is again.
Good. Study should be completed that examines the ratio of school count. Okay, you guys have it. All right. So which one of those things is most important to you? Is that yours, Lori, online registration?
Yep. The
Okay.
green one, yep. Mhm.
Okay, pick one.
What's most important?
Mhm.
Let's just say, I don't know if it really is or not, but let's just say make Election Day a federal holiday.
Okay. So that would be the, you would be able to see that. If you're done, you know that it would be a federal holiday. And the same thing is true for each one of the other things. So you've got the idea. You have to make it as specific as possible so you really get the facts about that and you can really try to influence your Congress people to actually take action on that. All right, so. Okay, so you know what to say now, and you know whom to say it to. So what do you need to do then? You have to communicate. And we're going to have an activity that will allow you to figure out, to actually practice communicating with one of your legislators. I'm going to ask you to make a choice. You can either write a phone script or you can write a letter. And I have to go back because I have to show you a video first.
Hey guys, my name's Justin. I'm here with St. Edward's University telling you a little bit about contacting your elected representatives. The first thing you need to do is find out who your representatives are. To do that, there's a lot of great websites online, like the one at Common Cause, where you can type in your address or even just your zip code, and they'll tell you all your representatives in the government, whether that be the president all the way down to your local railroad commissioner. After that, you need to figure out who to contact based on your issue. For instance, you wouldn't contact a state representative about immigration policy because that's a federal issue. They can't really do much about that. So you just need to do a little poking around online to figure out where your issue falls on the spectrum, if it's federal, state, or local. After that, you need to decide on the method of communication. Usually the best ones to do are phone calls and letters. A phone call shows that you're interested. If you call in, you might even be given to a full-time staffer that handles the issue, and you could have an informed conversation with them about it. And a letter shows that you took the time to sit down and physically write out your problems, and it's more likely to get you on the office's radar as a concerned citizen. Also, that letter will be photocopied and attached to whatever management database they use for their constituent contacts. They'll attach that photocopied letter to your entry. And then finally, before you go ahead and send it in, I recommend that you look it over and make sure that what you're writing is clear, intelligent, and concise. You don't really want to send anything in that's jumbled or not put together, because it just won't look good, and it's a bad way to start off a relationship with that government office. So on that note, good luck contacting your government representatives, and remember, that's the best way to influence change.
Okay, that young man, I think, is pretty amazing. He is clear and direct, and he's got a lot of good advice. And one of the things that he said was that you should contact your legislator. So how do you find out who that is? There is a link. And actually, I'm going to copy this into the okay, no, that's the Jamboard link. I'm still getting the Jamboard link. Pardon me while I struggle with this. Okay. Okay, you click on that Common Cause link, you will get to the same screen that I have here. And then you can see that there's I've put my address in, but you can see that there's a change your address line right after my address. If you click on that, you can put your own address in, and what you will see is a list of all of your personal representatives. And anything you want, you can go to their homepage and you can actually contact them there. The phone number is there. It includes state level. It goes all the way down to county level, but not your very local level. So click on that link and just take a look at who your own representatives are.
I'm having an issue making this work, and I don't know if it's what I'm doing or.
So you're a Common Cause?
I am, and something popped up and I exited out of it. And then I did find your representatives, and I tried 2 addresses And then when I clicked on in your state, the state of New Jersey is not on their list. Are other people getting results from using this?
I have results from the last module where we found your representatives. Once I clicked on that, everything I had found already came up.
Right, me too.
Okay. Try one more time. Okay, now it came up.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, the point that I make to the kids once they see that list of representatives is that they are elected officials. So they actually work for you and for the other constituents who live in the same district that you do. They want to be reelected. So what they will try to do is to keep the noisiest issues, the noisiest people happy. You can be one of those people if you let them know what you want. And one of the things that you can do is to actually ask them to sponsor a bill and work to have it become a law. And that's what I mentioned to you before, that young group in Monmouth County is doing with A5666. Okay, so you know what you want to say and to whom do you say it. Now we're going to do the individual activity and you have a choice. Remember, Justin said that talking to somebody on the phone or writing a letter are the two most impactful things. So decide whether you want to craft a letter, the beginning of a letter, because you won't have enough time to do the whole thing, the beginning of a letter or the beginning of a phone script, following the guidelines that he just gave you and that are on the screen right now. And I'm going to leave that up so that you can see that. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to work on your own. So grab a piece of paper and a pen. And when you're done, I'm going to ask you to share, or at least a couple of you to share. And the reason that we do that is that when you're doing this for real, it is very important to have other people take a look at what you've said and offer you suggestions. The more clear your letter or your phone script is, the better, the more likely you are going to be to get the result that you want. Okay, so I'm going to give you a chance now to sit and I'm going to time it for about 3 minutes and give you a chance to write what you'd like to write.
Pat,
Yes.
The issue that I grabbed a hold of, which was qualified immunity, is something that I heard a lot about on TV last night, but I don't know who makes decisions about it at, whether it's made at a state level, a national level, a local level, who makes decisions about the police that everybody has in their hometown, but that there seems to be this issue of qualified immunity across the country. So it makes me think that the decisions about that are made on a big level.
I'm going to say to you that decisions are made at multiple levels on that one. You can try to address the chief of police in your town as a local issue, but you can also ask for impact at the federal level, I would say, because what you can do is ask for a law. If the federal level isn't the one that is going to work, you can do the same thing at the state level and ask for your state legislators to come up with a bill that gets passed.
So what I haven't done yet then is clarified my question, because I haven't done the research to find out exactly where decisions.
Right. And you would before actually doing this. But why don't you try the local level, right? That for this experience.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to finish the sentence that you're working on. Janice, we're working on an individual, either phone script or the beginning of a letter that we can send to one of our representatives. So we're just about finished and you'll hear that, and then you can give us some feedback too. Okay, who's brave? Who would like to be the first one to share what they've written and to ask for feedback? When you're giving feedback, remember what you're trying to do is to make it better. So helping somebody feel good about what they're doing first with a positive comment is always a good way to start. And then if you have a suggestion, you can make it as a suggestion, but recognize they don't have to take your suggestion. They're just going to be listening to you. You're speaking respectfully and they're listening respectfully. So anybody brave and want to go first?
I can go first, Pat.
Thanks, Melissa.
Okay, hi, my name is Melissa Tomlinson, and I am a resident in Mays Landing, New Jersey. And I am asking the senator to consider enacting legislation that establishes a task force that will examine the number of school counselors, nurses, and librarians in relation to the number of students at each school building. Upon completion of report, an analysis needs to be done for research recommendations to establish a mandatory ratio for all schools that will be met within 3-year time span. The state will provide, and this is where I got caught up on the learning. I put a lot into mine. It's actually like it would be an entire process. But in addition, the state needs to provide additional funding to assist districts with meeting that mandatory ratio. As a special education teacher and experiencing what we are seeing as a result of the pandemic and the increased need for our students to have additional services that entail school counselors and nurses to be able to help provide support for mental health and well-being, as well as school librarians and media specialists to be able to center the whole child on our learning process. The only way we're going to move forward and move beyond the effects of this pandemic, including the trauma that has been experienced, is to bring these additional school staff into our buildings.
Thank you. Okay. Comments from other people, positive first, and then a suggestion if you have it.
I particularly like the fact that, Melissa, that you have obviously thought this out and can write so much at one time. I am wondering though whether you're not too ambitious for what you would like to see happen.
Someone
Yeah,
else?
and I
Oh,
realized
okay.
that as I was writing it out. Very ambitious.
Do you think bullet points might help in the first contact and then you can expand it later?
Yeah, when I didn't have time to like bullet it, I wrote it, and then normally what I do mentally is I go back and then I bullet things for my final. Yeah.
That's, yeah, good point.
I too, Melissa, really like that you've thought this out and that you understand it. Sorry, I don't. What I would recommend is you have your story and why after your bullet points or after the details. And I would sort of open up with this story. I think it was Pat or somebody that mentioned stories before. I'm a story girl also. So I want to get that. I want to be captured by the story and then read the details.
Good. Anybody else
And-
brave enough to read? Oh, go ahead, Melissa.
I'm
Didn't mean to
sorry.
cut you off.
So I started writing my story first, and then because of how my mind works, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, and so story was 3 after bullet points. So Pat, I don't know if in the slide we want to switch the order of that, because that's what kids.
I was going to say
going
the same
do as
thing,
well.
Melissa. We might want to switch on the slide where those numbers. I was thinking the exact same thing.
Okay, note made. Good. Anybody else brave enough to read their phone or letter script?
I will, but
Thanks,
as I
Pat.
was writing this, I got to my 4th sentence and realized I was writing to the wrong person at this point, but that's okay.
That's okay.
Dear Representative Malone, thank you for your weekly updates about activities in the House. I especially support your commitment to the environment and infrastructure. However, I am concerned about the lack of action in the area of ensuring safe, reliable, inclusive elections in the future. The passage of in HR 1 journals, I off the top of my head, I don't know what they are at this point. Bills is vital to the continuance of our democracy, and that's what time is it. I think both have been passed in the House. So I really need to be writing to Booker or to Menendez for this, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody want to comment? Positive first and then a suggestion.
So I have a positive. I like how you opened up with complimenting something that the legislator does. That's a really good way to draw people in.
Thank you.
Other comments? Okay, mine, Carol, I would agree too, that the drawing in somebody by reflecting to them something they've done that you appreciate is a good way to capture attention, especially if you're on the telephone, because the staff members will react more positively and be more likely to carry the message forward in a way that supports what comes next in your question or your inquiry. I think you pointed out yourself something that you need to do beforehand, and that is the research. You need to make sure
Right.
that you know exactly who you're writing to, and you make it as clear to them as possible what you want.
Right.
And then just a general comment, this is the first time you're contacting somebody. So what you're trying to do is capture attention for your issue. You can always go back later and provide more information, and that's what the next couple of slides help talk about.
I will say I have called him and the senators in the past for various other topics over the past several years. And when you telephone them, you have to be short and sweet and to the
Yes.
point, unlike when you write a letter.
True. Even the letters, for the first time, it's good to make it as specific and bulleted as you can so that it does grab the attention. But the comment about using a story is always important, and that's important both in the phone call and in the letter portion. Okay, so down on the screen, you see, wait, what, sponsor? You know, you can do all of this. Hold a hearing, what does that all mean? All right, so let's follow. Let's say the person you wrote to is going to write a bill for you. You've gotten the sponsor on both sides of the aisle. And so what happens from here? Communicate, communicate, communicate. You'll be doing a lot of that. So the first thing you ask is for your representative to sponsor the bill, which you just did. And your representative says, well, let me do some research. And then he says, or she says, yes, it should be a law. And that person gets more sponsors if possible.
Mhm.
And off to committee you go for debate. On the other hand, at that point, you can encourage hearings, you can provide questions, and this is the feedback that would come after the initial contact. You can pack the hearings when they're listening to what's going on, and you can go with your t-shirts and your buttons and all of that kind of stuff. But you might say, nah, bad idea. Nobody's going to support it. And then your job is to go back to the drawing board to figure out a different approach that might work. And maybe it's just rewording what you're looking for. Maybe it's trying a different tack entirely, but don't give up. But let's say it's step 2 and it's out of committee. After the debate, if a committee thinks it's a good bill, it gets placed on the calendar, what's called the calendar, and it goes to the floor for more debate. Then a vote is taken. To become a law, the bill has to be approved in both chambers, both the House and the Senate. Sometimes the bill is submitted in only one chamber and it goes through that whole process. And then if it passes, it goes to the other chamber and goes through the same process. Sometimes there are similar but not identical bills submitted to both chambers at the same time, which is what these young people are trying to do that I mentioned with A5666. The differences between them need to be ironed out in a conference committee. And then once it passes both chambers, you're almost at the finish line. Here's a list of things that you can do when it's on the floor. Now remember, you're contacting your senator or your assembly person, so this information is going to their staff member when you contact them on the phone or eventually to them. All right, so step 3, yay, it's now law, right? Not quite yet. The president or the governor can sign it and then it becomes a bill. Or they can veto it. If it's vetoed, it can go back to the legislature, and sometimes that's for amendments, and then it will pass. The legislature can override a veto with a 2/3 majority in both houses. Or the president or the governor, I mean, the head of the assembly or the head of the Senate or the governor can do nothing. And sometimes in some states, that means it becomes law automatically, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's pocketed and then it doesn't pass at all. But this whole time you can communicate. And if you make it public, like with letters to the editor and press releases, you have more power behind you because other people will begin to jump on the board. And then finally, your job is to maintain what's going on. Keep an eye on things and use pressure when and where needed. You can resist using something called ResistBot if action isn't taken. And in the hidden slides when you're the presenter, there is a slide that connects to ResistBot. It shows how students how to get involved. That's a choice you have to make before you present. You can depend, it determines your audience is the thing that should determine what you do. So once the action's completed, that's not the end of the story. If it was effective, again, you have to communicate, you have to thank everybody who helped you. If your action wasn't effective, you need to go back to informing yourself about why that might not have been effective, and then also informing yourself to determine what the next action might be. So don't give up. Civic action is a process. Young people do make a difference. Your votes will count when you're eligible, and if you are eligible now, they count right now. Your civic actions count. You can go out and you can change the world for the better. You'll be living in it a lot longer than I will, so you need to make it what you think it should be for your generation.
Hi, I'm Akila, a college sophomore in Boston, originally from Princeton, New Jersey. I believe that civic engagement is our generation's strongest asset. Over the past decade, we've led several movements on a variety of topics, and I truly believe that expanding that focus to understand the importance of having our voices heard through voting is the next step. Joining energizing young voters to develop curriculum and raise awareness within the local community was my way of acting on this belief. What's yours? Hi, I'm Akila, a college sophomore in Boston, originally from Princeton, New Jersey. I believe that civic engagement is our generation's strongest asset.
Okay, that's one of our young board members. She's an amazing young woman. If I even started to tell you all the things that she does, it would blow your mind. She just exhausts me when I talk to her. But here's where you can find us if you have questions, or if you need more information, or if you want the lessons that we have. There is a contact form on our website. You can use that, or you can email us directly at energizingyoungvoters@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook and an Instagram account to keep you updated on the things that young voters are working on or doing. And I would urge you to get on Facebook at least and like us, because again, that spreads the word. So you found your issue, we hope. You know the levels of government that you can impact. You know if you're ready to be a leader or a supporter. Are you ready to make change happen? You can learn the how-tos, and you can do it. And again, there is a feedback form that I'm going to put in the chat. And I'm going to ask you to take a look at that if you would. I'll also mention here that the League of Women Voters of New Jersey has just begun offering activist training. There are a whole series of lessons, and those lessons are going to be offered on a rotating basis. And you can take one of them or you can take all of them, but they should be really worthwhile to any young person who might be interested in going ahead and being more involved. Okay, and again, I'm going to jump to the responses because I know I'm going to run out of time for the last lesson, and I want to leave you a chance to chat at the end. Okay, one way the lesson affected your thinking. I used to think that I couldn't make a difference. I used to think students could be encouraged to do their own action. I used to think I was too insignificant to influence anybody. I used to think that ideas for laws only came from politicians. I love these folks. I don't know how to move forward without making change. I love what you have written. And now I think I can get involved to create change. And this was reinforced. I have a voice and someone may listen to me. Regular people can have ideas that get turned into laws. I have some concrete next steps. Things that made a difference personally. I'm going to go to what all people should know, that you matter and your voice matters. Anybody can be a leader, find your passion. We all need to become concerned and act on an issue, and your opinion's is valid, but you have to speak up. And you never know what will happen when you try. I love all of those. Thank you. And then I'm glad to see that it increased for most of you. And even when it didn't make a difference, I hope it reinforced what you believed in. And thank you also for those suggestions. All right, I am going to save these. Whoops. No, I'm not right this minute because I'm not finding that. Okay, let's move on quickly. Well, first of all, do you have any questions about that module or any suggestions? I don't want to go on before we capture what your thinking is.
Just a real quick one, and I had that in the notes, and I'll admit it. So my thing was, remember the voting make a federal holiday. I didn't know at what level, who would I call first? At what level? Do I start locally? Do I start at the top? So I kind of got stuck there, kind of in my head thinking of, well, who should I really go to?
That's a good question. If you remember from Fighting for the Vote, most voting laws are made at the state level. There are very few that are made at the federal level. So if I were in your shoes, that's where I would start. Okay. Anybody else have a suggestion? I mean, I'd love to see it be a federal law, but I think it's easier to affect the state than it is to affect the federal government. How about other things that people might have questions about or want to reflect on? Okay. And again, you can always feed me that information afterwards. Okay, this is the one where I am doing this pretty much for the first time, so you'll see what it's like for a first-time person. All right. And again, the words are all in the notes, so it's not so hard to just read and to have a good lesson, but it really does help if you practice ahead of time. So this is the overview. It's easy to see by looking at the news or social media or even in our neighborhood that communication is an issue today. In order for democracy to prevail in our country, we need to be able to engage others in a civil manner. Differences of opinion are inevitable, but we can learn how to manage those differences and conflict. And today, what we're going to do first is talk about your rights to be heard and respected, as well as your responsibility to hear and respect other people. And then you'll have a chance to practice the art and the skill of listening. When people feel heard and valued, common ground can be achieved, but it takes respect. Take a few seconds to think about this question. What's one thing you would have to do to have a successful conversation on a hot topic issue with somebody on the other side. Hot topics like immigration, guns, cancel culture, pro-life versus pro-choice, privacy issues, and there are others. And we're not going to go through the others because you did that before. We're going to do some hands-on practice today, but first we need to talk about the foundation of all effective communication, which is civility. The word comes from the Latin word civilis, which means relating to public life befitting a citizen. The dictionary definition is the use of politeness and courtesy in behavior, and it sounds easy, but we all know that it's harder done than said. Communications must build on the foundation of civility, because unless we embrace that, conflict won't be managed. If I force my views on you or avoid your ideas, we'll never deal with our differences. Take a look at that domino image. Just like in that picture, dominoes can always be on the verge of collapse from one side or the other. There will never be lasting solutions. And this is evident when a new administration comes into power and immediately reverses the solutions of the previous administration. It can seem like political ping pong where there is no real compromise or lasting resolution. It's not that we all have to agree. We'll never all agree. Anyone who follows the Marvel universe knows that even those who are supposed to be on the same team often have a lot of differences. And even if we're working on the same goal, conflict and differences will arise. But civility requires developing a culture that values human dignity and self-esteem. In our democracy, we put a high priority on basic human rights, but that is often on a broad general level. For civility to be put into practice, we need to bring it into our everyday interactions, our day-to-day interactions. This means that we have to recognize that every one of us has both rights and responsibilities. Rights are something that we are always given, regardless of anything else. And responsibilities are something we're always expected to do, a way we should act, a way we are expected to treat somebody else. For example, I have the right to be treated, with respect and to say what I want to say without somebody else making me feel bad about it. And I also have the right to be heard. And because of that, I have the responsibility to listen to others. We can learn skills forever, but unless we truly understand that, the foundation underlying communication skills will never be consistently effective in communicating. We must know that I have the power to exercise my own rights and also that corresponding responsibility that gives others the same rights. In other words, the golden rule. Without that, we'll never be able to deal with conflict. And there is a PDF form again that would be given to the teacher that can be distributed to the students. Okay, so since other people aren't our clones, conflict's inevitable. So I need skills to deal with those differences as I exercise my rights and responsibilities and try to work in a way that brings about more civility in our country. In other words, I need to manage the conflict, and that's not easy. People look at conflict differently and have different comfort levels or styles of dealing with it. Here are the main ways that people try to deal with conflict. One is that they try to force somebody or they compete. I'm right, you're wrong, my idea is better than yours. Another way of dealing with it is not dealing with it, avoiding it, pretending nothing's wrong or completely ignoring our differences. And the third way is suppressing myself or others. I tell myself that my feelings don't matter, or I inhibit others from expressing their feelings by interrupting, dismissing, bullying, whatever. In these approaches, the difference is not only not dealt with, it goes underground. It doesn't go away, it just gets buried. So how do we really work through those differences? To really work through the difference, we need to collaborate and negotiate. And the more skillful I become at collaborating and negotiating, the more effective I'll become at working with others in a civil way to bring about real solutions that have an impact. The key to managing conflict effectively is recognizing that we really need each other. I need to work with the other in a way where both our positions are heard and we jointly come to an acceptable outcome. There are a variety of personal communication skills that can help us manage conflict. Active, attentive listening, including attention to nonverbal and verbal cues. Clear, respectful speaking, including verbal and nonverbal cues. Respectful identification of those differences that we have. And mutual compromise or agreement. And that's not always possible, but it's something that we can work towards. Our goal is to give you information and let you practice the skills to help you more effectively bring about change. We only have time today to delve into one of the communication skills that help manage conflict, and the most critical one is to be able to really hear others regardless of the content. Since hearing is critical to collaborating and negotiating, we're focusing on that first. Active listening involves 3 active components. The first part is hearing the rational, the content of what is said. The second part is hearing the emotional, or how it is said, the feelings behind it. And the third part is putting both of those together and relaying it back to the speaker to make sure you heard it accurately. Active listening requires 2 basic qualities on your part: empathy, which is the ability to understand somebody else's feeling or view even though it's different from yours, and acceptance, which is the ability to take the other's position as true for them, irrespective of your agreement. It's important to understand that active listening is not agreement. It is hearing. It is hearing the total message that the other is sending and stating to the other person back what you hear. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of practice, and this is where I really should have had a partner, because the first is modeling it. So I hope that you'll appreciate it when I go back and forth and I'm the same person. Just pretend that I have powers of bilocation. All right, you're going to be listening for feelings today. These are some of the things that could possibly be the emotions that are behind what somebody says. So let's see this. I'm going to say something. And what I want you to do is to write in the chat box what you think the feeling is behind what I'm saying. I'm going to vote for the first time tomorrow, and I'm really not sure that I'm going to do it right. This ballot thing and the whole process seems really complicated to me. Okay, write in the chat box, please, what emotion you think is behind that statement of mine. The emotion, not the content. Okay. Yeah, I think those are true. And I think for myself, I was also feeling like a little bit, even though I was nervous, it was also like, ooh, I'm going to vote for the first time. And there's a little bit of excitement in that. I guess my voice didn't make that come through, but that's okay. the idea is to try to recognize that. Let's try one more and see if I can do a little bit better. I don't know what to do. I've been biting my nails. If my work doesn't improve soon, I'm going to fail this class. What might I be feeling? Okay. You have the idea. Thanks. All right. It's important to remember, as I said, that active listening is not agreeing. It's hearing. It's hearing the total message that the other is sending. So these are the steps for active listening. The first is identifying the speaker's feelings, which you just did. The second is responding to those feelings in a non-threatening way. It's okay if you don't say the right thing, like the first one when I said, well, there was also a little bit of excitement that I was feeling, but you didn't hear that. And I probably just didn't express that through my words. So it is okay to be wrong. When you're in this conversation, a speaker will help you clarify. And it's a good idea to try to reflect twice for clarity and to use accepting language, not criticism, of course. Then you want to respond to the content and connect it with the feelings. You have to listen to the message and try to be sure that you understand what it is that the person is saying, and then summarize what you felt. And then you can repeat that process. And it doesn't have to be awkward or stilted, but you can repeat that process over and over again. And that's where having two people do this is much better. And you repeat it until you're sure that the understanding is accurate. Okay, the explanation is not on this page, but this is what we're going to be doing in small groups. When we go into small groups, you'll be in groups of 3, I hope. One person in the group will be the speaker, and another will play the listener, and then the third person is going to be the observer. Everybody's going to have a turn at each one, as long as we have time. So you'll be a speaker first, and then a listener, and then an observer, or a listener first, observer, and speaker, and so on. The speaker's role is to read a statement that I put into the chat box to yourself and decide what emotion you'd like to communicate. Then you're going to read the statement out loud to your listener with those emotions or feelings. If you're the listener, you're going to hear the statement and then use the steps on the slide, which you'll have in front of you, to try to understand the feelings and the content of the statement. Don't worry about being wrong. The speaker will help you clarify as you ask questions, and keep asking for clarity until you feel like you both really agree on what the speaker was saying. The observer watches the interactions between the speaker and the listener. And when their time is up, they'll take 1 minute to share the observations. What you want to say to the two people, the speaker and the listener, is, was the speaker actually heard? And were the content and the feeling both stated by the listener? Did you feel that active listening helped the speaker clarify their feelings? You have to pay attention to tone, posture, expressions, and other nonverbal cues. And those are much easier to do when you're in person. So you're really going to have to just read faces here and keep asking for clarity, and then pursue the exact feelings. Like, you sound angry. Is that what you're feeling? This often helps the speaker clarify their own thing. The teachers or facilitators then model the practice. And this is where I need to be 2 people. So let's take a statement. I'm going to try to model this for you. So as the speaker, I would say, this is just making me crazy. We're allowed to go to school with masks, but we can't have interscholastic sports. It just doesn't make sense. It's going to ruin my life. And then as the listener, I would say, you sound really upset and maybe even, I don't know, a little bit angry or more than a little bit angry. Is that right? And then as the speaker, I would say, yeah, I am, but I'm also a little bit afraid because I was counting on being able to be in sports this year as a senior so that college scouts could come and watch me play and maybe give me some, you know, a scholarship or something like that. All right. And as the listener, I say, oh, I get that. I see that you're, you know, that would be a really good reason to be a little bit angry and frightened about what your future is going to be like. What happens, and now I'm myself again, what happens sometimes is that the listener will jump to make, to give a solution instead of actually listening. So if I made a mistake, I might say, well, why don't you get involved in a town league or something like that instead of, you know, just counting on the sports? That's not listening, that's jumping in. The other thing that sometimes happens is that people will, instead of giving advice, they'll jump to an, oh, I had exactly the same thing happen to me, and go on about themselves. So rather than listening to the person, they're actually just focusing, they're being very self-centered instead. So on this one, again, I'm going to try to model. I don't know what I'm going to do. The one required course I still have to take isn't offered this semester, and I'm supposed to graduate in June, but without that course, I won't be able to. All right, and as a listener, I can say, gee, I can see that you're really in a pickle. You must be really frustrated or really scared about what's going to happen. And the speaker then says, I sure am. I can't afford to pay for another semester or another course. I've got to get it in this semester. Otherwise, I don't know if I'm going to be able to graduate at all. And I've put in all of this time, these 3 years, 3.5 years. And then the listener can say, I get it. I get it. So what do you think you want to do? Do you think you can see any solution for it or not? And then the speaker has the chance again to try to explain further. So it's a back and a forth, but you have to really listen for the feeling first and not give advice and not make it sound like you had the same thing happen and kind of diminishing what that person is trying to say. So I hope, just me as the person leading this, I hope that having done that by myself, it's relatively clear. And we'll find out because you're going to give it a try. All right. There are statements that I'm going to put into the chat one at a time. And I'll also tell you the other option of this is to just have the whole group interact and respond, which, if you're not familiar with the technology, is a much less risky way to present the lesson. But I really emphasize that you've got to have a partner when you do that communications thing. All right, so this is the statement that the speaker is going to use when we break into groups. Just read that and decide what emotion you would like to project when you're expressing that feeling or that statement. I am going to put you into breakout groups. And I think we're going to make just 2 because I think that's what we can do. The person whose name is the first name comes first in the alphabet. So like Carol, if you and I were doing it, you would be before me because my first name is Pat and yours is Carol. So you'd be the speaker. The next person alphabetically would be the listener. And then the third person would be the last one in the alphabet. Any questions about that? Who the speaker, listener, and observer are? Okay. When you get into the breakout rooms, the speaker is going to say that statement, which you should be able to see when you're in the breakout room, and going to reflect the emotion that you choose. The listener is going to reflect what emotion is heard, and then the speaker is going to try to clarify, and there'll be that back and forth. The observer's just watching. After that, you're going to have about 2 minutes to do this, and then I'm going to click on the return to group thing, and at that point, the observer can give feedback in the room to the two people. So let's see how it works. Join your breakout room.
Here is Pat. Hey, Pat, the one thing that's missing for some reason, now that I'm in a breakout room, I don't know if you guys see it or not. Wait a minute. Oh, there it is. I had to put my chat back on.
Okay, you have it now? Okay, good.
Yep. So we have LMNP. Okay, I am the first speaker then. Let's see.
I forget who the listener is.
You are, Melissa, second
Okay.
person alphabetically, and then I'm the observer.
There's a big push to vote. I really don't come from a voting family. My parents never voted. I just don't see the importance of it. I don't want to do it to impress others.
So I'm getting a sense that you are a little anxious about voting.
No, I just don't really want to do it just because somebody's telling me to do it. I don't really have a good reason.
So I don't want to call the person apathetic, but that is the only thing that comes to mind.
No, you're just reflecting. Your job is to reflect what you're hearing from her.
Okay. So I'm hearing you don't have any experience with people that have voted to be able to understand the process.
Oh, Melissa, I'm just bored with the whole thing. I just don't want to hear it anymore.
Yeah, I'm really lost on this. I'm so used to doing this about education and right? So I know those words to come, that those like trigger words. So God, I don't know what to say, Pat. Help me out here.
I'm going to hit the closed breakout rooms, but what the first thing that I would say is the first time you reflected, it was great. The second time was fine. What you're running into is someone who really just is not interested. And so I think what I would say is I can sense that you're just not interested, and I'm curious as to why that might be.
Yeah, I think that's it.
So to try to
call
reflect
it
it.
out. I would say call it out and ask a question.
Yeah, but politely.
Yeah.
And to try to get to understand where that person is coming from. That's the purpose of this. Okay, we're going to be gone in 25 seconds, so we're not going to have a chance to give Melissa. Well, we will. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put everybody back in one more time and let the second person be the speaker so that we have a chance to try all.
So we have to leave and go back in? Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
You're on mute.
Yeah, we had some interesting conversation, but in our case, we were able to talk about how to reflect to one another. I'm going to put another comment in the chat, and I am going to hope that we can do the same thing. I have to find my chat again. It disappeared on me. There we go. All right, and this time the person who was the listener becomes the observer, the person who was the observer becomes the speaker, and the former speaker becomes the listener. Right. So here's the statement.
Hey, Pat,
Yes.
Carol and I didn't have anybody observe us, or we didn't have any feedback that we got.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I guess, Janice, you just jumped back in and you would have been the third person in that. All right, so this time Janice is here. So I guess you did Carol and Pat. So Carol, you were the speaker and Pat was the listener. So this time, Pat, you be a listener. And Janice, you're going to read the statement that's in the chat box with some kind of emotion, whatever emotion you choose to have. And Carol's going to try to reflect what you're feeling, not respond to you, not give you an excuse, not make it feel like she's had the same thing. And then Carol's going to watch and then try to give you some feedback. Okay, so we're going to go into the, whoops, hopefully. Okay. All right, do you have an invitation to join? Janice, can you join room 2? I will put you there. Okay. Can you hit the join button? There you go.
Me by somebody. I just saw a horrible post about me by someone I thought was my friend. I can't believe she'd do that. I told her something in confidence and now it's all over the place.
Janice, you sound a little angry and upset about that.
I am, and I can't believe it.
Did you think she would have done something like that before? Has it ever happened to you?
No, that's why I told her.
I never know where to go from there. I feel you, Melissa. Because you want to help, but I don't want to help. Right? All right. I don't know, Melissa or Pat, I guess observers.
Okay, as an observer, I thought you, oops, somebody just asked for help. I thought that you did a good job. Let me jump into the other. Okay, what was what'd you run into?
Kay is the granddaughter of Janice. She's the one who's here, not Janice. So
okay.
I don't know why my name says Janice.
That's okay. Okay. So did you two make the comment, or
where is the comment? I don't have any access.
All right. It should have been in the chat. So I'll say it and then you can listen to me, all right?
Okay.
I just saw a horrible post about me by somebody I thought was my friend. I just can't believe she'd do that. I told her something in confidence and now it is all over the internet. Okay.
Carol's the respondent, isn't she, or am I the respondent? She's the observer, or am I the?
I think I'm the observer.
Okay.
Okay. So Pat?
Oh, okay. Wow, that's really frustrating.
It is, but it's even more than frustrating. It's infuriating. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I mean, this was a secret.
Gosh, I don't know what to tell you in a case like that. It sounds like something that would really upset me too.
I don't know. I'm just so furious. I just don't know what to do. I think I'm just going to have to do something back, but I'm going to wait. I've been taught to count 1 to 10, and then I'm going to think about what to do.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Counting from 1 to 10 sounds like a good idea in this case.
Okay, because I'm running the breakout rooms, I'm going to close the breakout rooms too, but then we can continue to talk for a couple of minutes. All right, Carol, what did you observe? Oh, she's gone. Okay, that didn't work real well. Okay, Pat, what did you observe?
Oh, something, my problem is I want to, come in there and kind of help you, but I don't know how to go beyond, just kind of parroting back what you've said once, and then if I have to do it again, it really starts to get crazy for me. So
yeah, that is the hardest part. So what you can continue to do is to reflect, and then eventually it helps me clarify what I'm really feeling. Like you saw that I was saying, well, I'm going to have to count to 10. So I had moved on to the next step. So you did right. You were fine.
So my name.
Pat, you're on mute.
Pat, you muted.
I thought it was you who were muted. Okay. All right. So in the breakout room that I went into, there were some questions. We only have about 5 minutes left, and the rest of the show really talks about your civic duty again. So let's instead take those 5 minutes to either debrief on what you saw happening in those rooms, or to make a comment about something else that you'd like to reflect on.
We found it's really hard when somebody says something about a situation that they're in to not offer help.
Yes.
Right, just to tell them that you hear them, right? And that's important, and that's often skipped.
It's
But
very
it's hard
skipped.
not to go beyond that.
You're absolutely right. Other comments?
I'm thinking about doing this program in a classroom with breakout rooms. Pat, how cooperative have you guys found students with this reflective speaking?
We did this in a high school and we did it at the college level. And I dropped in on the classes or on the breakout groups.
Right.
If students know that somebody's going to be dropping in on them, they are more likely to actually participate. This actually becomes engaging, even with the high school students who tended to be reluctant, because we use the second one, which is, I saw Harble post the one you just did, but there's another one. My dad got amazing tickets a long time ago for the playoffs and now we can't go. Those are situations that are student specific. And so when it's really relevant to them, they're much more likely to engage in it. So yes, we did have involvement, but dropping in helps, and making sure that the statements are engaging is the other thing that's important.
Can you ask for clarification if, would that be a way of, like when you said, I'm so mad about this, could you say something like, is this somebody you've known for quite a while or something like that? Yeah.
Well, you would start it with, boy, I hear you're really upset. Is this somebody that you've known for quite a while? And then that person can expand on their original feeling. So that's good. Any other comments before Oh, Kaylin changed her name. Now we know who she really is. Okay, so the summary is that it's your civic duty to communicate well. And I think what you found is that it is really hard to do that we don't do it most often. And so practice is really essential, especially in today's world where people are clearly not hearing each other, because we get so upset about what we hear instead of reflecting what we're hearing. So this is a good skill. It has to be practiced. And the piece that follows this, which is learning how to speak without inflaming the situation, is still in development. But that I hope will be done and piloted this fall. So we'll see. But at any rate, so your civic duty to communicate well, We both have rights and responsibilities. Conflict is inevitable, but we can manage it. Civility can't be achieved unless people really feel heard. And like anything else, it needs to be practiced. So how will you do your part? What's one thing you'll commit to try? You don't need to commit to it publicly right now, but think about it for yourself. These activities all came from the Braver Angels organization, which is a national organization designed to help people learn to talk across the divide. So there's lots more information at their website, which is www.braver-angels.org. And that is here. Oh, it's not a dash between Bravery and Angels. Okay, any other comments before I let you go for the day? I really, really appreciate your participation and your patience with me as I struggled through that last one.
All good.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Pat. It was great.
Yes.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks all. Good to see you all.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll be on site full time tomorrow. Tomorrow's a better schedule for me, so I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you for subbing for me, Kaylin. I appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging in there, Taylor.
Most has changed.
Okay, I will see some of you tomorrow and I look forward to that. And any questions that you have, don't be afraid, just shoot me an email. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.